Afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'll have you state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
Mary Jo Irmen, I-R-M-E-N.
And were you in the room earlier when I went through the penalties for perjury?
I was.
And do you understand what perjury is?
I do.
And being advised of the potential penalties for perjury, do you promise to tell the truth in this case today?
I do.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Jordy.
Yes, thank you. Ma'am, do you own or have an interest in property that's near this potentially proposed pipeline?
Yes, we have property that is a half a mile away.
And even though you're currently a half mile away, are you concerned that Summit could unilaterally choose to potentially move this route at any time?
Yes.
And tell us some of your main concerns and frustrations and your involvement in this opposition.
For starters, the pipeline was on our land. We drove out of our driveway one day and saw a stake in the ditch. It was there for about 2 weeks before I decided to go read the initials on the stake, Googled it, called them, and that is when I got a return phone call from them. That return phone call was not an explanation of what is happening. It was a, hey, can I get permission to survey? Which I obviously denied. And so they moved a half a mile east, I'm assuming because it's vacant landowners who signed easements immediately. But we live in the bottom of a bowl. We are the lowest point in probably a mile radius. And there's it's literally a bowl. So if that thing breaks or ruptures, we're first to die.
And you're familiar, are you not, with Chief Briggs' testimony from Satarsha, one of Mr. Baki's witnesses, who testified again that the plume was traveled 24 miles and everything within 500 feet was completely frozen and people were suffering adverse effects up to 3 miles away?
I am not familiar with the testimony, but I've read a lot about Satarsha, and so I'm familiar with what happened with the plume, yes.
Okay, and so your proximity being lower level, is it your understanding that CO2 is denser than air and would seek the lowest level?
Yes.
All right. Tell us some more of your concerns or frustrations about how all this has gone.
Some of my biggest issues are the way that Summit has handled the questions. When I heard about it, I very passionately, as they called me, was asking them questions, and they did not want to answer the questions. And instead, they responded with, "Oh, you seem very passionate about this matter." Yeah, clearly. It's on my land that we had just purchased. We just moved there, just got our house redone, just moved in, and somebody wants to just take it from underneath you, and all your plans for it. And so was I passionate? I sure was. But they did not choose to answer those questions. And so I look at it and say, if we're not going to answer the questions and we have horrible leadership, how do we know that the leadership of the pipeline and the building the pipeline and the hiring of the correct people to do this pipeline is going to be done correctly? Horrible leadership is going to lead to a horribly constructed pipeline.
If how they've conducted themselves to date in North Dakota has been their job interview, should they be hired?
Well, being an employer, I wouldn't hire them.
And what is it that you do for a living, ma'am?
In short, I sell life insurance.
All right, very good. So
it's much deeper than that, but that's in short. And I have 2 employees, and I would never hire I wouldn't hire any of them.
On the insurance front, you're then familiar with the concept of exclusions and limitations and the way that insurance companies can, frankly, wiggle out of coverage and those type of things, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Are you concerned about all of the various testimony from multiple insurance agents, multiple insurance companies that landowners cannot obtain and do not have coverage should they even be alleged to have done something that may have caused a leak or a rupture?
And before I sold life insurance, I was in the PSC world, and I had seen many claims that were not paid because a life insurance company will almost always pay a claim. If I die because of this, they will pay the claim. But if there is an issue with anything property related, those companies do try to get out of those claims because the exclusions are super important to be reading in your documents.
Correct. Is there anything else important for the commission to know from your perspective?
The one thing that some people haven't talked about, and I would just like to point out, and you guys are very smart individuals, so I'm sure you've noticed, but it is disheartening to me that Summit hides in a room and watches these from the live stream instead of sitting out with the people and talking to the people that want to clearly have a conversation with them. Instead, they hide and they don't come out, and then they go put women out in the front table because people aren't going to get mad at women. So I'm sure that is strategically done, but it is very disheartening to me to not ever see them anywhere in this audience.
Is it a bit ironic to you that Summit is here asking for this privilege of potentially locating hazardous pipeline across over 300 miles of North Dakota land, yet their COO is sitting just outside this room with security guards in a conference room and not participating here today?
Is it ironic? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah. Is it surprising? No.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Nothing further.
Mr. Bender, any questions?
Mr. Malberg this time. No, thank you.
Mr. Pelham, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Pranis, any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Bakke, any questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Chrisman?
I just want to ask if you're aware that the witness that Mr. Jordy was talking about from Summit was at 4 previous public hearings.
So I'm terrible with names. I've watched a couple of them. I was here at the last one, but I'm absolutely terrible with names. So it's a good thing you have a plaque to tell me who you are.
He was at 4.
Okay, then I obviously saw that because I was here.
Questioned by all the attorneys.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Haugen-Hoffert?
I have no questions for you, Mary Jo.
Thank you, Sherry.
Mr. Dawson?
No questions.
I do want to, can I just say, I appreciate you guys hearing this, being open-minded and asking the questions, the hard questions. I very much appreciate your time.
Thank you.